Hi everyone, we are looking at powers and exponents today. So before we really touch on what are powers and exponents, let's quickly recap on what you already know from previous years. So let's, for example, say you had 2 plus 3. Now this is quite basic, which is probably you learned this in grade 1. That obviously would give us 5, which means you have 2 sweets, for example, and now you've added another 3 more sweets, so in total you have 5 sweets. So that's what addition is. Okay, and then we looked at a multiplication after that. So for example, if you had 2 times 3, what is the difference between 2 plus 3 and 2 times 3? Let's look at that. So what this really means, 2 times 3 means you have 2 sweets, but it means you see it 3 times. Okay, it means you have 2, but you have it 3 times. And that's what 2 times 3 actually means. 2 times 3 actually means then is actually 6. So 2 times 3 is 6. And that is the difference between adding and multiplying. Right, and now we're going to come to, which is today's topic, which is our exponents. So if you had now, let's say something like this, 2 and a little number on the top, okay, this is what you call powers and exponents. We call the number that is down, the big number, generally it's written quite bigger, that is called the base, and the number at the top is called the exponent, and the whole thing is called a power. Okay. Now let's see, so what does this notation actually mean? We read this actually as 2 exponent 3, or we read it as 2 to the power 3. So what does this really mean? It does not mean, firstly, it does not mean 2 times 3. It does not mean 2 plus 3. So what does it mean? Okay, it means the number that is down here, it means that is the number that is being repeated, and these are numbers that are multiplied by each other. So 2 exponent 3 means you are multiplying the 2 3 times, right? So the base gets multiplied by the exponent, tells you how many times it gets multiplied. And then if you want to evaluate this actually means 2 times 2. So 2 times 2 gives us 4. And then taking that answer, 4 times 2 gives us 8. So as you can see quite clearly, powers and exponents is extremely different. It's very different to adding and multiplying. So 2 exponent 3 actually means 2 times 2 times 2, which is 8. It does not mean 2 times 3. It does not mean 2 plus 3. Okay, so now that you understand the difference, let's now move on to a few more examples. So let's say, for example, you had 2 times 2 times 2 times 2. Okay, and you want to write this in, for example, let's say exponent form. So if you want to write it in exponent form, then firstly you will look at, okay, so what is the number? The numbers that are multiplied are actually called the factors. So what are the factors? The factors are 2 that is being multiplied, and how many times is it being multiplied? 1, 2, 3, 4 times. So we know the exponent is 4, and that's how you would write it in exponent form. However, if they asked you now to evaluate this exponent, or the power, evaluate with a V, oops, getting this wrong, sorry, let's just quickly correct that spelling. Okay, so evaluate, so that means we're now going to multiply each one. So we're going to go to 2 times 2, we know gives us 4, and this 2 times 2 also gives us 4, and then we're going to multiply them together. 4 times 4 gives us 16. So we know the final value there is 16. Or you could have just said 2 times 2 is 4, 4 times 2 is 8, and then 8 times 2 is 16. Either way, you'll come to the same answer. All right, now let's get quickly at a few more examples. If you had a fraction, then if you had a fraction like, let's say, 1 over 3 times 1 over 3, and you want to write that as exponent form, Then with a fraction first, however, you have to put it in a bracket first and then write the exponent, which is 2 in this case because they are multiplied 2 times. Then if you are evaluating it, all you're doing is multiplying the numerators. 1 times 1 is 1 and 3 times 3 is 9. And so your answer is just 1/9. If you had a decimal, for example, if you had, for example, 0.2 times 0.2, then this would be 0.2 to the power 2. And if you are multiplying that together, remember that the rule for decimal values is that first you ignore the decimal point. So this will actually just be 2 times 2, which will give us 4. But then you can see there is one place value in 0.2. And altogether for 2 of them, it means you have 2 place values. And then you can have your decimal point. So it will be 0.04. Okay, I hope that helped you with powers and exponents, and I'll see you in the next video.